landscape. EDTF, building futures and putting smiles on faces.
You're watching Niger Live Television, reaching you from Bielsa's capital city here in Yenagoa. Thank you for staying with us. My name is Henry Ahamuefula. Hope you're fighting fit and ready for the day. Let's check out what's trending around the world as we take you on the paper review this Tuesday morning, the 10th of March, 2026. And we'll start off this morning with the Daily Trust paper, which has as late story the 2027 elections. The paper reporting why PDP may not be on the ballot. This is likely not unconnected with the ruling of the appeal court yesterday and the Turaki-led NWC saying that they will be going to the Supreme Court to hear what they have to say on the matter. Well, also on that story, on that paper rather, is the Middle East crisis, where they're reporting what oil windfall means for Nigeria. And also the story on Zamfara governor defecting to the APC makes its way to the Daily Trust paper this morning. The story on how students, narrate how they escaped school building collapse also is a story that you find on the Daily Trust paper. That building collapse is one sorry story that we've been seeing on social media. And well, the details of that story is on the Daily Trust paper this morning. I'll leave the Daily Trust paper and get to the Blueprint paper that's also reporting on PDP being in disarray and appeal court nullifying Ibadan convention with Zamfara governor quitting just yesterday. Well, the writers of the Blueprint paper has it that Lamido wins again as court blasts Turaki faction and also upholds Anyanwu and others suspension. That's what the Court of Appeal said yesterday. That's a story you find on the Blueprint paper this morning. Another story there is on Dangote assuring steady fuel supply and the marketers panicking over price spike. You wonder exactly what's given Dangote this assurance, because as it is, Dangote needs around 60% of imported crude, 50 to 60% of imported crude for it to be able to, provide fuel and the other things that it needs to provide. You wonder exactly what's giving Dangote this much confidence, especially because crude oil, getting crude oil across the world is becoming a problem with this Middle East crisis. A lot of, skyrocketing in prices and all of those with Iran closing off the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, a lot of ethics there, yeah, but hopefully that Dangote's talk around being certain that the company is reassuring on fuel supply. Hopefully that is something we can really trust on and believe in. But away from the Blueprint paper, and we check out the Leadership paper, which has also the U.S.-Israel war with Iran as lead story. Also has motorists, commuters lamenting as petrol hits 1,215 naira per litre. How much exactly do you purchase petrol from for around here in Bielsa State and wherever you are? Please leave it in the comment section, right? What do you purchase petrol for? Have you recently purchased fuel? How much did you get it for? As at Monday, Sunday, there were talks around the petrol selling for 1,015 naira, 1,100 naira around Bielsa. What exactly is the figure today, Tuesday? Please do leave the details in the comment section, right? Rivers Assembly also makes it to the Leadership paper this morning with that report of them clearing 5 commissioner nominees and rejecting 4. If you've not seen this story as well, just go through the Niger Live TV Facebook page. You should see some of the stories there, right? With of Rivers Assembly clearing 5 commissioners and rejecting 4. The circumstances in which they rejected 4, it's well, some would say laughable, but it's another thing that one should or a country should actually pay attention to. What exactly are the reasons why these 4 nominees were rejected? Would we say that these reasons were really valid? Can we call these reasons valid? It's a story you check out when you purchase the Leadership paper. It's contained on page 25 of the paper this morning. And IGP, that's the Inspector General of Police, right, visits Kwara State, and he vows to take back communities that are overrun by bandits. You also get the story on page 7. The leadership paper reports more on the PDP crisis, with Turaki faction heading to Supreme Court and Wiki pushing for reconciliation. Is it pushing for reconciliation, or is it pushing for absolute control of the PDP? Which exactly is it pushing for? Well, away from that, to a story that's contained on page 7 of the leadership paper. It's on Dangote Rabio being ranked first and third on Forbes Africa's richest people list. Good to know that a Nigerian is still there, ranking number 1 as richest man in Africa. There are even stories that some of these African billionaires did around over $20 billion, in the past year, adding to their network, increasing, their net worth. But it's good to know that a Nigerian still leads. All right. On page 6, also there is a Zamfara governor and the deputy quitting the PDP and joining the APC. A sad story also makes it to the leadership paper, with the talk around bandits abducting 13, killing 1 in Kaduna communities. This is as police also arrests 2 suspects. Well, away from that leadership paper to the This Day paper, right? And above the nameplate is a story on oil price tumbling to $90 as Trump insists choice of new Iran leader is a big mistake. I don't know what he expects. Maybe he wants typically for them to bring a leader that would answer to him, or answer to the West, or answer to the US and Israel. Exactly what he means by saying that it's a big mistake. Does he not want them to have leaders? Well, I'll leave that story and check out another story that's on the Daily Sun paper, and that's also reporting on marketers projecting 2,000 naira fuel price. This is as Dangote hikes petrol and diesel price to 1,175 naira and 1,620 naira. All right, you get the story on page 25. All right, page 25 of the Daily Sun paper. They are projecting that if it continues this way, the Middle East crisis and the shock it's leaving on the rest of the world, we are likely to see petrol selling for 2,000 naira, or fuel selling for 2,000 naira, a broader term there. Fuel selling for 2,000 naira. Wouldn't that be shocking? Rough times we are, getting into. But I also check out a story that's contained on page 27 of the Daily Sun paper, and that's on Southwest APC saying they will give Tinubu 10 million votes in 2027. This is coming from the Senate leader. And well, organ harvesting is also a story of interest on the Daily Sun paper. They say organ harvesting link. Your allegations against me are fabricated, says PPRO, who tells Showeri that your allegations against me are fabricated. You want to check out exactly what the story is. It's on page 4, right? You want to check out exactly what it is, especially because, well, there is a new PPRO, right? A fourth PPRO. There's a new one. And is it exactly Benjamin Hundeyin that Showeri is referring to, or is it a new one, the one that's replacing Benjamin Hundeyin as announced by the new IGP? Which exactly is Showeri referring to? Get more details into that when you get a copy of the Daily Sun paper this morning. From Anambra State is a story around Soludo touring schools to reinforce Monday resumption activities on page 29. You also get that also of the Southeast Citadel thing, touring schools to ensure that they open on Monday, and to also reassure them that yeah, it's safe. It's safe. We have the state secure. There's nothing like IPOB attack or anything. So you all can open on Mondays. That's basically what Soludo, I like to think, is trying to achieve with his store of schools, right? Well, I mentioned you get that story on page 29 of the Daily Sun paper this morning. On Kaduna State, 12 were abducted as terrorists hit another Kajuru community, and IG vows to reclaim Kwara communities from terrorists. Now there is Kaduna, there is Kwara. Well, a lot of insecurity rocking Nigeria's northeast and parts of the southwest, right? Away from the Daily Sun paper this morning, I check out the Nigerian Tribune. Nigerians groan as petrol price rises. That's on page 2. And petrol sells between 1,200 to 1,300 in Lagos, Ogun, Ibadan, Delta. In Delta, it sells around 1,213. Oh, then what would it sell for in Bayelsa, Well, what are you buying it for? The price is discrepant. I know there are stations selling as high as 1,150, 1,100 naira. But what are you buying petrol for? I mentioned earlier you should leave comments in the comment section, right? Well, gunmen invade farm, kidnap Ondo Council secretary and worker is also a story you get on page 26. A fire God's head of service building in Abuja as Wilson Jack orders comprehensive probe. All right, it's a story you get on page 2 of the Nigerian Tribune. A story of how fire gutted the head of service building in Abuja, and the probe that's been ordered into it by our very own Wilson Jack. Check out details on the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Daily aspirin may do more harm than good for cancer prevention. This is something you take for cancer prevention, right? But you take it every other day. A study has shown that it may do more harm than good. You just may be harming yourself when you continue this intake of aspirin daily, you seeking to prevent cancer. So perhaps you need to tune down on that, right? Or perhaps you need to take, just consult your doctors, right? Consult your medical expert, your health expert, so you know if really that's the way to go. Then again, taking aspirin every other day, that's likely an advice, a medical advice. One would wonder exactly why that advice is. Well, there's this study that's coming to disprove that efficacy. As much as it is effective, it is very, very likely that it could cause harm to you. Well, I'll move away from the Nigerian Tribune this morning, and we focus on the Daily Independent paper, where the Middle East war is also a lead story, and the petrol talk also takes center stage. And there is also another story that is of interest. That's on infrastructure, the infrastructure lag that's threatening CNG adoption rates. It's ever since the president removed a fuel subsidy, when he came on board, there's been that talk of an adoption of CNG. But how far have we gone with the adoption of CNG? This is because of the cost of fuel price, right? The cost of petrol price. And so with the talks around the adoption of CNG, that's like people saying they want cheaper fuel, cheaper gas, something that, cheaper energy, but this time around, there is the Daily Independent that's reporting that the CNG adoption rate, the rate at which people would adopt CNG or adopting CNG, has been threatened by the lag in infrastructure. What's this infrastructure? When you have to refuel your CNG, your vehicle, you don't get those stations, easily. And that's something that's very, very likely discouraging people from going ahead with these transforming their vehicle to CNG and all of that. I'll move away from that and check out the story around NEL Fund disbursing 206 billion naira to over 1 million students nationwide is a story you also get on page 7 of the paper. That's the Daily Independent paper this morning. The Daily Times paper has as lead story the appeal court verdict setting pace for reconciliation, and it also has a story around Tinubu signing into law a bill to strengthen protection for internally displaced persons. Way to go, I mean, I would say, right? Because that's long overdue, really. And that story also you get on the Daily Times paper this morning. And another story there is on Hurua seeking investigation on fire outbreak in head of service office already. I mentioned Wilson Jack had already ordered an investigation, ordered probe into that. And real quick on the Guardian paper this morning, the way they put theirs is that oil rally retreats as Nigerians await pump price review. And the price is surged by 47% in Nigeria. It's stable in other African markets. That's according to the Guardian paper this morning. Howbeit, our stakeholders are citing loopholes in deregulation as subsidy worries. Typically, subsidy worries resurfaces anyways. Typically, it's deregulated, and so a lot of persons will be taking a lot of advantage. They say whatever goes up in Nigeria barely comes down. So maybe it's another one of these examples, but there is that problem, that deregulation problem, wherein people are taking advantage of the crisis and are deciding to hike even when we've not gotten that challenge really in Nigeria, Okay, let's check out another story on the Guardian paper this morning, and that's around troops confirming and repelling Boko Haram and ISWAP attacks in Borno and Yobe State, a story that's contained on the page 20 of the page 30, I beg your pardon, of the Guardian paper this morning. There was also Festus Keyamo that's reporting that airfares may rise as aviation fuel hits 1,600 naira per litre, right? A story on news page 5. That story is contained on news page 5 of the Guardian paper this morning. It says airfares may rise as aviation fuel hits 1,600 naira per litre. And on news page 5, also there is a story on CSO raising alarm over children, women malnutrition in IDP camps. This is as the other papers are reporting that President Tinubu has signed a bill into law that would also, aid the IDPs we have in Nigerians. Opposition states shrink to 5 as Zamfara governor joins APC. Clearly, there are only 5 governors are in the opposition. The Osun State governor, or your state governor, well, a number of them. But there are 31 APC governors. What's the 2027 election going to look like? What do you think the 2027 election would look like? Would it be a walkover? Do you think the ADC has what it takes? Let's hear that in the comment section, all right? Let's hear that in the comment section. What are your thoughts on that election, given that there are 31 state governors already of the APC and we only have 5 opposition governors? What does this mean for 2027? Would the president clinch the seat again? Alrighty, I check out a story on the Matrix Sport, a few stories on Matrix Sport, and the first is on FA Cup. Man City hosts Liverpool, Arsenal tackles Southampton, other quarter-final ties. And Gadolo admits Premier League title is no longer in Man City's hand. There's also another story on the Matrix Sport. Another story you find there is a story around, it says Rodri available for Arsenal final. Midfielder fined 80,000 and escaping FA ban. That's a story also on the Matrix Sport. On the Super Eagles, it says Super Eagles officially denies Eric Shelley has signed agreement with Moroccan giant Wydad. All right, check out these stories when you get a copy of the Matrix Sport this morning, and that's where the curtain falls on the papers this morning on Niger Live Television. Do stay with us. We'll bring you the news, the Globe in View, in a moment. My name is Henry Ahamuefula. Have a beautiful day.
Every ripple starts with a single drop. In Bielsa, that drop is the Education Development Trust Fund Board EDTF. From the moment a child sits down to a nutritious meal to the day a scientist steps